The Jackal, one of Spider-Man's biggest villains who caused Spider Island, the Clone Wars, and basically pestered poor Peter Parker perpetually. How's that for some Stan Lee alliteration? But what are his origins? Well, as we are nestled comfortably into the 1970s, it seems like a good time to take a look at who he was and how he initially got under Spidey's web-coated skin. Prepare yourself for a multi-episode look at the villain who effectively shaped the future for the wall crawler. So welcome to Kevin's commentary on comics. Yes, we are going to take a look at the issues that brought us the Jackal and how he really messed with Peter Parker in a major way. So where do we start? Well, none other than Amazing Spider-Man number 129, The Punisher Strikes Twice. This was written by Jerry Conway and art by Ross Andrew. Oh yeah, and not only is this the first issue that features the Jackal, but also a little character known as the Punisher. Wow, this is a big issue, folks, so let's just jump right on in. So they certainly waste no time introducing these characters, as the splash page shows right here. No big reveal for them, just hey, let's get them up and out here right up front. I both love and hate this, because I think if the story were written today, there would have been some build up to who they were and their reveal, like a big final page, full page shot of the Punisher or the Jackal. But hey, did the writers have any idea the impact the Punisher would have on the comics world? I doubt it. My guess is that Conway created the Punisher as maybe a throwaway character. So the Jackal is prepping the Punisher on killing Spider-Man, but the Punisher isn't just doing it because he likes to kill people. It's because Spider-Man deserves to die. Meanwhile, Spidey is swinging through town and comes across a robbery in progress. The bad guys think that Spidey just wants a cut of the cash. Now let's remember that during this time, thanks to J. Jonah Jameson, Spider-Man is largely believed to be a menace, but we all know he isn't, and soon the bad guys discover that too as Spidey takes them down. Now Ross Andrew, as mentioned, is the artist on this book, which he did for 5 years starting in 1973. He's one of the artists I associate with Spider-Man the most because it was right around this time that I discovered Spidey and buying monthly issues. He was the guy drawing them, so I kind of really associate his artwork with Spider-Man. Although I've read that there are some people who really weren't crazy about his artwork, and I guess I can kind of see that when you compare him to, John Romita Sr. or Jr. or even Ditko, who really has a style all his own. Still, I'll always, like I said, consider Andrew one of the greats because of the emotional attachment I have to this book. And actually, let's bring that up because I don't know that I have done a Spider-Man review of a particular comic in my 84 or so episodes that I've done, but I had a very strong connection to Spider-Man and Peter Parker specifically because of, kind of the popular reasons. He was a younger man. He dealt with, kind of the bullying issues when he was in high school and, getting to classes and getting good grades when he was in college and trying to make a living, being a single guy in the big city. Certainly had enough social life issues. I kind of felt we were similar, although I didn't have hot women like Gwen Stacy and Mary Jane Watson falling for me, nor did I have spider powers, but there was always that feeling that we were the same at some base level. So rereading these books really brought back a lot of those memories of when I read them originally. All the Spider-Man titles that were out were must-reads for me. Amazing Spider-Man, Peter Parker, The Spectacular Spider-Man, which actually premiered a couple years after this book, Marvel Team Up, and Marvel Tales, which really just reprints of early Spider-Man issues. So Spider-Man, it's really interesting because Spider-Man always has been a major player in the Marvel universe, but even in the mid-70s, he had 4 books featuring him, which was pretty unheard of back then. Nowadays, it seems like if a character is even slightly popular, they get 6 monthly titles out of it. Anyway, back to our story. Spidey is a public menace. Yes, he is, but why? Well, it was only about 8 issues ago that Gwen Stacy died at the hands of the Green Goblin, but everyone thinks Spidey did it. And I'll be honest, when I started getting into this batch of issues, I was thinking Gwen died, like prior to issue 100, but obviously I was wrong. It really wasn't that long ago. So Spidey is still dealing with that, and it's obviously still bumming him out. He tries to put on a happy face as he goes into the Daily Bugle, where he worked during the time. He hands over his roll of film. Yeah, pictures used to be stored on that stuff. But as usual, J. Jonah Jameson is not happy, and he wants Parker to get pictures of the Punisher, who is the most newsworthy thing going on in New York City since Boss Tweed. And I didn't understand that reference, but what I do understand is that Spider-Man had one of the best supporting character casts in any comic during that time, and quite possibly ever. You had J. Jonah Jameson, you had Robbie Robertson, Betty Brant, Mary Jane, Aunt May, Flash Thompson, Harry Osborn, even Glory Grant, Liz Allen. There's just a lot. There was a deep well of stories that could come out of these characters, and they did quite often. It was great, and I really enjoy the going back and seeing how well they did with these characters in the book. So Peter leaves the Bugle, dons his Spidey duds again, and while swinging around, his spider sense goes off, but he can't tell from where the danger is coming from. He doesn't have to worry that long, though, because it appears that a rocket just missed him. They showed in a panel before this, I didn't put it on here, but it looked like a rifle was being pointed at him. But this explosion that we're seeing here really does look like it was a rocket launcher. But who's shooting at him? Is it really any surprise? No, it's the Punisher. Spidey goes after him, but he traps Spidey. The Punisher traps Spidey with a titanium coil. And while Spidey tries to break free, we see some insight on this man called the Punisher. There's a lot of evil in the world, and it's his job to wipe it out. He fears that maybe, just maybe, the evil he fights has somehow rubbed off on him. Dun dun dun. Even early on, the very first appearance of the Punisher, we get right to the core of who he is. So Spidey does break free and gives the Punisher a good sock in the jaw. Hiding in the chimney, however, is the Jackal, and he decides to level the playing field by raking his jackal claws across the back of Spidey's head. Spidey falls over the building, which the Punisher isn't happy about. He wants to kill people, but he wants to do it in the right or just way. Okay, I guess. They, of course, think Spidey is dead because he fell over the building, but Spidey actually managed to swing to safety. Spidey returns to the battle site that the Jackal and Punisher have fled, and he sees the Punisher's discarded coil gun, complete with a nameplate of the armorer who built it. Huh? The Punisher wouldn't do that, would he? Later, Peter is fixing the rips in his mask from the Jackal's claws, and here's another great thing about this book. We get to see Peter doing some normal stuff. He has to deal with ripped costumes and empty web shooters and all that. He's just a normal guy having to fix this stuff. He just never gets a break. Although, I kind of wonder, why didn't his spider sense alert him just before he's about to poke himself with a needle? Sure, it's not a bullet, but still hurts. Maybe it's because Peter's doing the sewing, so the spider sense doesn't react to things he does to himself. I guess that makes sense. Meanwhile, in the hallway, an overly sweaty Harry Osborn is concerned that Peter has figured out that he's the Green Goblin. And by the way, Peter hasn't. This is just Harry's paranoia. So he leaves quickly. Back at the villain's lair, the Punisher is not happy with the Jackal letting Spider-Man fall to his death. But the Jackal doesn't understand. The goal was to kill Spider-Man, so what difference does it make how it happened? The Punisher apparently has some kind of twisted code of honor and feels that the deaths need to be done right. I guess by shooting with rocket launcher. The Jackal thinks he's about had enough with the Punisher's soul searching and his code of honor on how someone should die, not just that they should be dead. Spider-Man, meanwhile, goes to the gun store that was on the Punisher's gun and finds that the owner of the store is dead behind the counter. Of course, that's right when the Punisher shows up, and guess what? He thinks Spidey killed the guy. They fight until Spidey takes him down and makes him see that his friend was killed by claws just like the Jackal uses. Plus, he asks the Punisher, would he really leave the name of the gun store on his guns? Of course not. See? We were right to wonder why that was. Obviously, the Jackal left that gun there with the gun store on it. The Punisher swears the Jackal is going to pay, and he walks off saying he's just a warrior fighting a lonely war. Really, that's pretty good. That's basically the essence of the Punisher right here in the very first issue. They kept that going throughout the Punisher career or comics. So Spidey takes off too when he hears police sirens, and the Jackal watches him swing away and plans his next villainous plots. Wow, this was quite an issue. There was a lot going on, and hey, this is one of high value because it's not only the first appearance of the Jackal, but certainly because it's the first appearance of the Punisher. And again, I was really surprised on how much of his character they put on display in this one issue, this premiere issue, and find it cool that how much of that was kept intact with the character as he got more and more popular. Now, I'll admit I was never really a huge Punisher fan, but there was no denying his popularity, at least at one time. I'm not sure if he's nearly as big as he used to be in the 90s and the aughts, where he had, I don't know, a dozen books. So I'm Kevin, and that was my commentary. What did you think of the Punisher? Did you like him immediately, or feel that maybe the comic market became a little too saturated with the character at one point? In some ways, he's kind of like Wolverine, who was great in his early appearances, but then he just started being a member of every single super team there was. So it's kind of like, hey, enough's enough. And I kind of felt that way about the Punisher in the late 90s. For sure, but it's kind of cool, again, like I said, to see that they kind of stuck with the essence that Conway put into this one issue. But what about the Jackal? They seem to just kind of throw this character out there, and there must have been a lot of, who is this guy, when people were reading these issues originally. And we will find out more about him in the next several episodes, as I plan to stick with this run of Spider-Man because A, it's the mid-70s. Spider-Man is one of my favorite characters on a couple different levels, and it's just plain good. If you want to see me go through these classic tales, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and while you're at it, like and share this video, won't you? So until next time, please make it a great day, and I will see ya.